an aneurysm, and then my cousin Sabrina, who passed a month and a half ago, maybe close to two months ago, but that recently, she died because she couldn't get treatment in her city in Georgia. She lived in somewhere on the outskirts of Atlanta, and she passed. She had lupus, like my daughter, and she passed because she couldn't get medical attention. She was having an outbreak. She came to New York, and by the time she came to New York, she died. So also she was an anti-vax, and I take these conversations a little bit more personal than most because of how it's affected my family directly. But even at the wake of my other cousin who passed away, it's so hard to say, but at the wake, the brother was speaking and telling conspiracy theories. So we have a problem with fact and fiction in our society. People are starting to say things like "my truth." Not that truth is not, personal to you, but it affects my community even more because we start at a position of distrust. We start at a position of we can't, for lack of a better word, we can't trust these crackers. and I think Kyrie kind of subscribes to that. Kyrie kind of subscribes to the magical mind that a lot of people in his generation have. Science, facts, they're all a part of the conspiracy. And again, there's actual conspiracies in our face, that happen every day. But the ones that are more tantalizing are the ones where, we're taking the mark of the beast if we take this vaccine. So I don't know, man. It's disheartening. That's the only part of it that's disheartening, though. This is a basketball pod. The basketball side, I think it'll work itself out. I think Sean Marks knew he couldn't come back with the guys that he came back with, and especially if he was losing Dinwiddie, because Kyrie's a wild card. Is that? Do you think? What do you think of the guys who are the part of Nets Twitter that will not allow for any Kyrie negative talk, no matter what it is? What do you think about that side of Twitter?
No, yeah, I think this is the perfect pivot. So I think there's two really interesting things. I mean, number one, I think people at this point, the part of Nets Twitter that has kind of started to act like we're this franchise that is so elite and everything they do is perfectly right and every player they have is invincible and bulletproof, that we're not really allowed to criticize them at all. And the Kyrie supporters are easily the worst to go at. It's like what do people? I mean, I never get involved in these. Everybody says the Beyonce hive on Twitter is the worst group to go at. The Kyrie one is pretty strong.
You don't want to go for the Beyonce hive. The Beyonce hive will get you.
The Beyonce hive is seems like it's almost like those idiots who support Portnoy at Barstool, and when you go at him, they end up threatening you. That seems to be the vibe I see.
Yes,
I see with some of these peeps, and
it's mean spirited.
I think we have a really interesting question, which is how much of this offseason was predicated towards COVID and Kyrie proof, because that's your slogan of this team being Kyrie proof. I honestly think is his genius, and should honestly end up maybe being the slogan for the Nets. When you walk into the Barclays Center, welcome to Brooklyn, we're Kyrie proof or whatever.
Right.
Because I mean, I think there was a podcast that I shared this week that I forgot which one it was. It might have been with Mark Schindler and Matt Brooks or someone else, where the only downside that someone had talking about the Nets was they were with the money they spent on Mills, maybe I would have rather just had it spent on a wing, like a Jeff Green type or someone who's a kind of in that vein. And now you're kind of thinking well, Mills might end up having a way bigger role than any of us ever thought he was going to have, depending on what's happening, and maybe the Cam Thomas pick as well.
I, and for me, that's where I see opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So today when KD was talking, he was very to the point about Kyrie, and I probably am not being fair if I'm reading into it. But when he started talking, I don't know if you noticed this, but when he started talking about Patty Mills, his face lit up.
Yeah, he loves him.
And he was like, me and Patty, we were just talking basketball. We were like, Kyrie and KD are different. Kyrie grew up immersed into basketball because that's who his father was. That's Godfather, is the culture in his family. That's just what it was, right? I feel that, and I feel that he loved it, and he still loves it. But I also feel like now Kyrie thinks of himself in a different way than a basketball fiend. Like when I saw Patty Mills after winning the bronze medal, singing "I Come From a Land Down Under" with his Australian teammates, I was like, golly, man, that dude is a leader, man. That dude believes in like winning and playing ball. And I was like, we're Kyrie proof. We didn't have that last year. We had Spencer trying to get his money, eventually getting hurt. Whatever the shade was that went between him and the organization after that. We didn't have that. We played Tyler Johnson at point guard, a backup point guard for minutes. We went to Russia and got a point guard. Like, this is Patty Mills. He's a champion, Sam. Like, you got to ride with me with the opportunity that opens up by just Kyrie just being missing.
No, I mean, look, there for sure. Like, I'm really excited. I think your point about Patty Mills, and like when you saw Patty and KD, those videos were my favorite videos of the entire summer.
Yeah.
Like the Patty Mills KD embracing each other, and like how happy KD looked, because I think you were alluding to this a little bit, but like Patty Mills kind of seems like he has like the Hooper mentality that KD has.
Yeah.
And, Kyrie, I think, gets the rap for having the Hooper mentality, but it's clear that his true like love is in a lot of other places, which is
great. Which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, to have other interests. Like, KD has a lot of other interests, but if you see the look in his face, like I know this is hyperbole to a sense, but I saw a twinkle in his eye when he was talking about Patty, and that told me like, James is our point guard anyway. If we don't have a problem scoring the ball, if we could just have that guy who will hit shots in the clutch instead of Joe Harris, who has proven that that's not his role. That's not his thing. So I just can't think of that signing came out of nowhere for me. It wasn't on deck. It wasn't in the front of my mind, back of my mind, nothing. Like, I knew he was available, but I never thought he was coming here. And we really got lucky with that one. I don't. Hey, it could be a whole lot worse. We could be talking about it's the ushering in of the Mike Brown. Oh, what was the dude's name that we got from Russia again? I forgot his name. Mike James. Mike James, the one and only. You can't control him. Yo. Nah, man. I'm good with Kyrie on the basketball tip. Like, if he shows up, we're playing for like 2 and 3 championships. If he shows up. Not even if basketball is important to him, but if he just shows up. If he's there, we're a legendary team. If he's not there, we're still a great team. We'll win a championship.
This is my question though, because what I don't get is like, I thought people have said that he's been at HSS so far this year, like practicing, but I thought based off of the executive order, it would seem that he couldn't be at like any Nets facilities or anything like that. So that's why like this whole thing I just find to be like kind of bizarre, and like I'm just wondering even how it'll be enforced. And like what's also funny is like he's also gonna be able to play in half the games or whatever, even at this rate. Like, so it's funny because I think a lot of Nets Twitter's acting like he's out for the year when like he will be there.
And also it's only been 2 weeks, so he might have been at HSS. But this is like, look, I'll give you some inside baseball on this, and I hate that this has turned into the pandemic podcast, but you know, my brother's a cop, right, and he is not like one of those trying to save the world cops. He believes in his job, he does his job, and he does it very well. You know, he was one of the youngest New York captains ever. Some shit like that. I don't know. But like my brother is accidentally a super cop. And he explains that when they have these meetings of all the captains and all of the upper cops, they report in front of the commissioner and they talk about things. And when they look at the numbers of every place but here, they get scared shitless. Because in South Dakota, they might have a festival or a biker concert, and guess what? The next 2 weeks, even though South Dakota's far apart, everybody's living on, 10 acres of property. There's, barely anyone that lives in that damn state, but their COVID cases grew 700% at one bike rally. So my brother's telling me this story because what happened at that bike rally, now think of it 20 times in New York and quickly. And it's not like I was telling you before, it's not just the fact that a lot of people can get it. It's the fact that it puts stress on the hospitals. The hospitals get packed, people get turned away, people die. So if he was at HSS, if they're breaking the rules, especially because of what the Nets ownership and organization claims to be about as a group, I just don't see them going against it, because they probably go in behind the scenes and have that conversation that you can't have normally, or you can't say outwardly in a press conference, because it would scare the shit out of people. You still want them to come, you still want to sell out, you don't want to scare everyone, but we're going to follow the rules because of what can happen in this particular city very, very quickly. So I just don't see any kind of machinations where, unless things change, that Kyrie will be playing the home games, or them changing until this thing is over. And the reason why it's not over is because we have so many other states that doesn't believe in any of the rules, and it just keeps going, and it feels like a nightmare that won't end. Even though New York, like, we've been rewarded by our diligence with this stuff. We're like, you could almost walk down the street like it's normal, but in other places, people are dying, man. I have people in Florida. It just seems like every other week, someone I know down there gets it, loses their sense of smell. Shout out to Bradley Bill, who said, I lost my sense of smell, but that's it. No problem. I got COVID. So Bradley might get the religion thing, though, because he's a proud part of some kind of super church down in DC. I'm pretty sure it's probably some evangelical thing or something like that he's rocking with. Him and his wife are a part of that thing. So Bradley Bill, I salute you. But the Wizards don't have these protocols, right? It's 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 YOLO down